G'day YouTubers, and thank you for tuning in to today's very big vlog. Of course, yes, do you know what day is it today? It's Thursday the 21st of July, yay! And yes, in this video, normally of course on my YouTube channel, I normally do tours and things, but if you remember on that cartoon trifecta video that I did on the 21st of April, which was about 3 months ago, that video was kind of like one of the last greatest videos I've actually made of all time now. I've got a train on the background, if I could show you running like so, obviously. But in this video we're going to be talking about the weight loss industry, and yes, I'm going to be talking about my body as well, on how much weight I must have been losing so far though, because back in 2019 I was pretty much a fairly sick, and also, you know, that was actually the time when my YouTube channel was pretty much a baby. So as sad as it sounds, this may sound pretty nostalgic for all of the wrong reasons, but of course, yes, I feel like I must have been doing some kind of challenge though. But yes, overall, I bet you what though guys, I'm not like the only one alone who has done this. In fact, there are other people who are doing this type of challenge. But anyways, we are going to be talking about the weight loss industry, and also the pharmaceutical industry as well when it comes into my body, of course, because obviously, I don't know if I could show you my body, of course, but yes, overall, I know I've got this very cool t-shirt of a Sega Mega Drive console here, but I'll tell you what guys, I don't know how much of a heavy hitter I am. But anyways, I'm just going to go ahead and straightforward delve into the world of fast food and also the weight loss industry. And that's what this subject is all about for today. Surely I'm not the first person who has done this. There have been other people who have been doing this, but there's been no real record of what they've done and the things that they came up against. Just after I did my diet in 2019, there was a gentleman in the United States of America back then, and I think it was some kind of school teacher, and he did something on a similar vein, and I think he did it in a bit of a longer time period, I guess so, right? Like a little long time span, and I think he was getting free food from McDonald's. So McDonald's knew he was up to. Mine's very different. McDonald's don't know that I was pretty much doing this. You know, in fact, the restaurant that I went to most of the times with my parents, you know, as part of a drive-thru sort of diet, sort of pretty much made a very, very weird part. And it also sort of actually woken up to the whole fact that over the last weeks or so, all those guys coming in and ordering certain things. But in the end, this really did, you know, I'll just say it, overdid for myself and for my family. It completely changed my life. In fact, it saved my life. I know there'll be lots and lots of people who would struggle in this sort of video on YouTube, because it's very different to what I normally do, seeing the Ivan for what he was. And I was actually a very sick person back then in 2019. And when you're really overweight and sick as I was, it's just amazing how much denial gets into your head. And I think it's one of the biggest problems that in that condition. It's actually more of a mental health issue. But during the month of basically reformatting the way I saw food and understanding what to put in my mouth and what to not put in my mouth, boy oh boy, in a sense, a new person being reborn at the end of the month. And the best part is I just kept the weight off. And what's quite interesting is that I now pretty much eat very differently today than what I used to eat. Like, I'll just say it. I don't know what it was, but when I used to eat food, and I think the best way to sum it away was I actually ate like, you know, I'll just say it. I don't know about you, but I used to remember, sorry I don't know what to say though guys, but the best way to sum up the way I ate back then was I used to eat like a teenager for the bulk of my adulthood life. And boy, if you do that, man oh man, you'll be literally in hot water, and I can tell you what I gotta say, it can end up into a whole bunch of trouble. And actually, as a bit of a secret, I'm actually a fairly lazy person, and my clock is that actually is kind of, you know, very, very strange overall. And part of the secret to do, you know, if I was going to be doing a McDonald's challenge or a KFC challenge or a Burger King challenge or any other freaking fast food restaurant challenge, and basically keeping in focus on what I was doing is, one thing I've noticed when I make videos for YouTube was if I was going to be downstairs in the garden, or whenever I'm upstairs on the bedroom, or should I say the living room, obviously, if I'm downstairs, obviously, hey? Yes, of course, yes, and playing the videos all together on the computer, I actually don't eat. So I just thought, well, if I spend a whole month making a video, which this became because I spent a whole month basically, you know, just spending my time, obviously, not making videos on YouTube, just going to like either McDonald's or KFC or any other fast food restaurants and keeping myself busy while making a video and took my mind off. I'm eating the wrong sort of foods, even though I was going through the dinner temptation of going to like McDonald's or KFC twice a day, and sometimes 3 or thrice times a day, thrice obviously, that's 3 times obviously, and I just thought I'm just trying to do the right thing, but yet again it was pretty much or very much a matter of mind over matter, and I had to really that mental stamina to get through this and to make it work through the first week, and it's been quite hard, I can assure you. That it actually is quite hard, I tell you, like I said, very, very hard. I can assure you the first week must have been very, very hard, and I mean, man, I can still remember the headaches I was getting from that initial shock to the system of me ordering a very different diet from McDonald's, but man, that's crazy, isn't it? Oh, and the other thing, by the very first week, back then in 2019, I think I had an energy, and there was also a well-being inside of me that it was trying to, pander at me. But I think it was also the massive revelation to what I did, and it was one of these things, and I can say, hey, this is what you did for me, but you know what, this is someone who's just sitting there. Let's say if you're sitting there and if you're like me before I did this, you're probably thinking, oh, this guy's a loony. I can assure you, and I can actually show you something, something very simple to do. Oh, sorry, it's kind of funny, And it's actually not that funny. In fact, the fact that I was pretty much being driven by my parents nearly all the time makes this sort of as really strange as it is. I mean, imagine this though, going to McDonald's, being driven by my parents for a month though, and reformatting the way your body deals with food, and of course, yes, that's what happened to me. There's one thing for sure, that I'm pretty sure I'll never go back to the very, 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 very large and very sick Ivan that I was, and I'm actually very, very happy of what I am now, and I feel like I'm much like a younger person. And in the condition that I was, I felt like I was hammered, and I was feeling tired all the time. And it's just incredible that the amount of denial that was pretty much around, I guess. So in fact, obviously, well, I'm just saying I guess because I don't know what I'm saying here, but it's actually more like, I'm just joking, I'm just kidding, it actually is kind of, it actually is very official. Okay, so obviously, it's so obvious and incredible just how much denial your body, it gets, when you're in that condition. And I'm just thinking, I'm just sort of thinking, maybe just think back to clothes. Quite interestingly enough, in 2022, overall the year when COVID has been, a little bit lenient though, but yes, it was lenient for the wrong reasons. Well, obviously, when I went to Malaysia on my holiday, of course, I just saw that one big mall in Malaysia when overall they had like something like 8XL clothes, or I can tell you what, maybe like the 7XL was getting tired of me, and I can set up to the next size, and it just goes to show how sad it really is when you get up to a very large sort of person, really, you know what I mean? And my challenge is that, there's that one guy here, that they all helped me along the way though, and this is actually kind of interesting, is that, actually, not really a guy though, but I had like a little chart though, back then in August 2019, I used to have like some kind of chart to represent my 30-day diet back in August of 2019, and I was literally hammered, more and more hammered back then, as it wasn't to do with the unusually wet and cool August weather. That's what August tends to be always like, you know what I mean, But yes, overall, it's crazy, isn't it? Just very crazy just to think of how much denial and how much weight I must have been losing. Of course, yes, I did gain a lot of weight in 2020, and then I lost all that weight, actually some of that weight, or most of that weight, back in 2021 when I was doing all kinds of post-COVID activities. And I'm just thinking to myself, wow, it really has been quite hard for me to lose all that weight back in 2020 because, well, it's been very difficult because of so many lockdowns that have been impacting my life though so far. And I think it really just starts to paint a bit of a dark picture of what goes on into my life, you know what I mean? Going back to the chart though, I actually used to remember having, when I used to have some kind of recyclable chart, like a very cool sheet of paper, and I used to remember having it though, but I don't think I had that time, it was more of a temporary thing. And I used to remember marking out X's with a pen though, because obviously the X's represent the day of pain. You know, like this, the letter X, that represents my days of agony, and you know, consequentially of gaining so much weight or losing so much weight as something very essential. And I mean, overall, it is something fairly important though. In fact, overall, doing such a challenge like this, it's not always that very hard to pull off. I'll show it to you though once the video progresses. The other important aspect as part of my challenge was I'd actually also developed a meal that, and this became almost a staple in my life, and I ended up calling it like the McLear. And oh wow, looks like you'd be introducing that along the way just to morph and change to myself, and it took me a while to get this, you know about the good mix. But one thing about the McDonald's here in the United Kingdom is that ever since I did my challenge in the menu, which has morphed and changed into some of the things in my life, and I was bringing up saying, hey, wouldn't it be good if you did this, this, and this? Well, strangely, McDonald's have done this sort of thing, so maybe they're very aware of the fact on how people are very perceptive and, you know, in the way their restaurants are. And of course, yes, and remember, I'm not anti-McDonald's or anti-fast food-esque overall, though. I'm not really an anti-fast food person. That's one thing I'm sure. I'll make it very clear. And of course, yes, I'm not pretty much running an ad for McDonald's, of course, or any other fast food companies and blah blah. And I will tell you that, but yeah, it's one of the greatest things that I've pulled off, and I'm actually very, or should I say, really proud of what I've done so far. And I can assure you this: I can make just one person, wake up to themselves, and I think, well, if I did this, this, and this, I could be a much more different person and feel much younger, as if you were not engaging with the diet industry. And I can tell you what I gotta say, it's been quite arduous for such a task to lose all that weight. And then after lockdown, I lost all that weight, and then I gained a lot more weight in 2020, back in September actually, though. And then in 2021, it must have been very difficult to pull off, because obviously, as you know me, obviously I don't know about you, but yeah, completely and utterly tricky to do such a task like that, you know what I mean? I'm actually not a big fan of the diet industry. I'm actually a big fan of someone who's saying you some good advice, which it doesn't really cost anything, and in essence, what I'm actually going to be produced for YouTube doesn't cost a thing. It's all in these videos. Mind you, if you're the sort of person who's doing a labouring job like digging ditches or laying bricks or something like that, or doing something where you know, for example, of course, as obvious as it sounds, you're burning a lot of energy, and this is your diet. Because I can tell you what, if I missed a meal and in this diet, I can tell you what, I was feeling low. I would just say very pretty low, like the lowest of the low. Well, not really the lowest of the low, but as I'm saying it, pretty low. But you know what I mean? I have to say, I can tell you what, I have radically changed in the way I took food, and that has stuck in, and it's been one of the stuck inside into me though, and it's been one of the best things that has happened to me. One thing I'm really fearful of is that because this video is actually all about the real full-on study of a month of me going from McDonald's, and of course, yes, I don't actually take any videos on YouTube because of the problems I had so far back in April 2021. It ends up, being quite an extensive bit of time. I wish I could bring it onto YouTube, but I can't, sadly, these days, to show you the whole thing. And I'm really keen to show people the whole event, because it's a bit like saying, well, maybe I can show you from day 1, and then we can skip to day 30. But then you know nothing, and you see the things I'm up against. And one of the things I'm actually, just one thing I'm actually constantly up against was the thing called suggestive selling. And it's one of those things I'm thinking, well, if I've just gone and ordered a fairly Big Mac meal, or should I say a fairly big meal, and in the car doing myself needing an extra, cheeseburger, hamburger, or whatever else on top of that meal as part of my temptation on top of the thing I've already ordered, I think that's got to stop. That really needs to stop. And I mean, it's a bit like the whole Super Size Me. You know that one documentary, the Morgan Spurlock one? That was one thing that was sort of trying to me, sort of got me inspired, but for the wrong reasons. That would have been quite tricky, obviously. I don't know about you, but I'm vlogging right onto that side here. Not towards I think I should have vlogged towards the middle. A little bit like that, right? Unlike Morgan Spurlock, who was actually part of the the Super Size Me video, you know Morgan Spurlock. One thing he was trying to do in his challenge was that he's actually trying to quell. I mean, imagine that. If you were pretty much going to order him, or let's just say a coffee, and then offer an apple pie, well, maybe that's okay. Hey, maybe the audience can tell me about it in the comments down below. And maybe that could be the best thing to say on one of those sort of, you know, suggestive sellings, if that's pretty much making sense. But for me, I think the constant con was that it was like an on and off switch. It was like anything but the kitchen sink. It was always there in the background. And during my challenge back in 2019, I kept all the things that were suggestive sold in the box, and I could take a look at all of those, but sadly I can't because obviously I'm vlogging here. So anyways, I could just move on to another thing, right? One thing I might do, as I'm actually making this video, is I'm actually going to grab the webcam, because obviously there's that one video that I actually used to remember watching when I was a kid, quite a bit of a decade ago. Actually, yes, it's been quite a while actually. 12 years ago, if I grabbed the webcam, there was that one video that was all about the Big Mac, which was like some kind of burger, which has been pretty much downsized like that. In fact, I might play a video of that, but I'm not going to be showing you some sounds because of copyright infringement and all that guff. Yeah, overall it's just quite amazing. Just I think really sorry, I've got the screen of it, so I've got a duplicate of it, to be honest. But yes, obviously, what was actually quite phenomenal about that Big Mac was I call them Mini Macs now. Of course, in fact, this is the Australian version of the Big Mac, and it's quite interesting just to see it, right? And it's quite a while ago actually. And one of those things when I used to remember seeing a Big Mac, and of course, yes, I've tried one of those before at a restaurant in Birmingham, and I actually didn't like it. Maybe it's because I wasn't really into burgers. Maybe the taste was one of the biggest things that made me turn off. The design caught my eye, but it's just that, you know, it didn't really sort of, how would you say it? I'm just playing the video back again just to see what the Big Mac looks like in Australia. I'll tell you what, I actually got turned off by that type of burger because obviously I wasn't really that interested on eating about that. But there is actually one thing that I might show you. It's not always going to be a vlog, you know what I mean? And making videos like that. I don't know why I always say you know what I mean, but I feel like I should stop using it because people will be, stop using the same phrase, it's blooming annoying. The other thing I've also mentioned were the rings that used to go around the burgers. Of course, yes, they were a thing back there in Australia, but also around the world, and they were about the same size as 2 boxes of matches. You know, 2 boxes of, how would you say it, redhead boxes of matches. Quite interesting, isn't it? And it was actually quite a very amazing sort of video on how it actually downsized in Australia. Of course, a lot of Big Macs are now, I would probably call them Mini Macs now because of how downsized they are, and it's just crazy just to think on how small things are getting. Well, things are getting smaller. So with the train belching right in the background, yes, overall, as I'm thinking about, you know, the rings that used to go around the burgers, it was never always been shown because it was going to be a little bit probably hard, you know, should I say, too hard to swallow. But hey, it must have been quite hard to be grilled by McDonald's. Overall, you know, if I was going to be into the head office, I could probably remember that day that I could be very clear of basically being took because being taken to, you know, or what I've actually been emphasising because about the response about the whole Big Mac downsize thing. Overall, it's been quite crazy, and I can tell you what, I could imagine myself just sitting myself down, or letting, you know, the people at McDonald's just let me sit down, and actually I had myself being stood over with 3 people around me, and I remember sitting down, and there were people standing up and saying, you know, they're literally standing up around me, and they were asking me, you know, they were basically asking questions, saying, Ivan, why are you doing this? Are you a journalist? And the rest of us saying, now look, I'm just a YouTuber, I'm literally just a person who makes silly little videos about looking at a Big Mac. You know, an old Big Mac versus the Big Macs of the day. You know, obviously it's quite crazy to think about questions, isn't it? You know, one question they didn't ask was that, Ivan, are you a customer of our restaurants, and how long you've been enjoying our product? And what I could say to them is that, look, I've been going to McDonald's ever since when I was a kid in, you know, the early 2000s, or I don't know. I could probably think of many McDonald's everywhere. I've been to many McDonald's across, you know, Birmingham, London, of course, though, maybe Manchester, I think. It's just crazy just to think of how much time I must have been spending if I go to McDonald's. It's crazy, isn't it? Well, obviously I could take a look at all kinds of McDonald's. Maybe if I had some chance, I might take a look at the closest McDonald's on wherever I go to in Birmingham. You know, maybe somewhere where there's a drive-thru and whatnot there. And also, maybe if I have some time, I could probably spend my time making a video. And I might take a look at the first McDonald's ever in the United Kingdom, which is sort of hidden away, unless if you're really into all about McDonald's stuff. Hey, I could go there. It's still there. I might go there as well. But hey, I could probably be very surprised just to see how much McDonald's has been. You know, I must have been thinking that McDonald's didn't ping off as well as being. Well, he is someone who has been eating our product for years and years and years, and it's not my whole life because McDonald's wasn't there just to start out with me. But one thing about me was I was very familiar with everything to do with McDonald's, and I thought it wouldn't be amazing if I could just turn this product into being the solution into a massive problem. And there's also one very cold hard fact is that whenever I think about the weight loss industry and the pharmaceutical industry, and yes, obviously there is the industry of weight loss and the industry of medicine, and the sad factor is that both the pharmaceutical industry and the weight loss industry can't make money unless if you are sick and fat. And that's one of the darkest moments that is sadly very true so far, eh? One thing to reconclude with the whole weight loss thingamajiggy that I'm doing at the moment though in this video is that whenever I think about turning a product that will be the ultimate solution to a massive weight loss problem, that is something that I would have done. In fact, I've already done it so far, and that's also something that very few people have done. I would like to see Morgan Spurlock do a real challenge in life. Here you go, Morgan, bulk up and lose all the weight by going to McDonald's. I dare ya. I bet you couldn't. I can tell you what, I can. Well, okay, hopefully that has brought up some kind of analysis during my time of going up towards McDonald's as a drive-thru, a drive-thru sort of diet sort of thing. Sadly, it's going to be putting up with a lot of videos on YouTube, and I know I've been banned on making videos in April 2021 with phones and tablets and other guff like that one, blah blah, and whatever, handheld and whatnot. I think most people are going to suffer it, but personally I wouldn't suffer it because obviously what I'm doing in this video, or should I say vlog video, special video on Thursday the 21st of July, was I'm actually doing this as a complete body of evidence. Hey, sorry for the pun, eh? And people were saying, oh look, he's just skipping into the gym or he's running around the block 10,000 times. There was none of this going on. It was actually purely driven with diet, or purely diet driven. And that's something I want to make it very clear. And that's actually a bit of a story on how long it took me to name because, well, it didn't have any name though. Doing the whole thing at the time, it didn't have a name though. Until a good friend of mine, an old video friend of mine called Lauren, he was basically, well, the bulk of your diet was driving through McDonald's and getting food and, was going for food, and why don't you call it the drive-thru diet? But don't tell anyone because I'm going to rob that idea. So no, that's actually not a bad idea. I actually thought of that. Probably someone before, like I've done this. There's nothing new, I can guarantee it. But anyways, if you want to go ahead and watch other people's videos about, this sort of thing like that one, eh? I mean, if you want to go ahead and watch videos like that, I can tell what the guys say, it's very essential. Not only just essential, but anyway, if you're going to watch those videos, I just hope I've kept something true to my word, and I'm not doing any ads for, McDonald's or any other fast food restaurants. And if you want to be, and if you're in the condition or maybe just reassess on where you are in your life, and not only do it for yourself, but also do it for the people around you. I think that's very important to do. Oh yes, and there's actually one thing I should also say is that the shock value of Morgan Spurlock's, the Super Size Me video or movie is that many people, when I actually watched this back at secondary school, was like many people said to me, well, we get this one, we get that whole video shown around school, and blah 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 becomes a major topic, and all the rest of it. And I just said, what did you learn? What did you learn about what to put in your mouth and what not to put in your mouth? And then they just basically replied to me and said nothing. Really, McDonald's is bad. It's bad for you, then, McDonald's, really. Well, the truth is, obviously, it's not the food that is actually bad for you. It's not what McDonald's isn't always bad for you, but what actually is really bad for you is the choices that you make. And you can go to any other restaurant apart from McDonald's or any other fast food restaurants. You can go into any other restaurant and make bad choices, and it's going to be bad for you. McDonald's has a great selection of good choices that you can make. See, mind you, it's like, you know, to make though, obviously, with various good choices. But mind you, it was a little bit like playing through, you know, tiptoe through the tulips at some times. But I've got there at the end, and I'm living proof for the fact it can be done anyways. I hope you really enjoyed these videos. Thanks so much for watching, and bye for now. And that was actually a very simple and short vlog, because I can tell what I gotta say, I'm completely and utterly done and dusted. Yeah. Bye. I'm loving it. Well, everyone's loving it as well. You loving it? I'm loving it. Well, that's a cool of a voice like that at the end of the video, eh? Whoa.